Hey, what's up? It's Nathan Williams with Crazy Marketing. Now this video right here is a compilation of several videos that help make up the course that you're taking right now. Now to help you navigate through everything, I've provided timestamps down below in the description, so I recommend going, check out those timestamps, watching what's relevant to you. Let's get into it. In this section of the course, we're getting into optimization, and optimization is essentially how you make your campaigns actually work, because typically right out of the gate, your campaigns aren't going to be profitable. You're going to have to do some optimization, you're going to have to do some exclusions, you're going to have to turn off some segments or keywords in order to actually get the results that you need in order to be profitable. So optimization's where your campaigns are made. And so in this video, I'm going to do a basic dashboard overview, and then throughout some of the other videos, we'll get into different things to check on in order to better optimize your advertising efforts. So in this video, we'll talk a little bit about filters as well as segments like click type as well as conversion action. And then we're going to go ahead and adjust our columns, and I have some preset columns that I typically go with, are my go-tos, and there's like 100 and some different columns you could choose from, so you can definitely customize whatever you want to see, but this is like a good base set, so you could go ahead and make decisions. So anyway, let's head over to Google Ads and get into it. So here I'm in my Google Ads account, and you're probably pretty familiar with it now, but I want to go ahead and point out the different places to go for your data. So of course, in the top right hand corner, we can go ahead and select our date range. So if you want to look at a certain time frame or window, you could go ahead and do it here. You could also compare different time or date ranges. So if you want to do like last 7 days and then compare it to the previous 7 days, you could go ahead and do that. So that could be beneficial in figuring out if you're trending in the right direction. Of course, you want to be trending, in the right direction. So that could be a handy way to go about doing that. Let me go back to all time just so we can see everything. So date range, that's pretty important. Make sure you're looking at what you need to look at. You could also mess with these charts up here. There's, 80,000 different options you could go ahead and look at and filter and chart about and change your chart type and all that stuff. So if you're into charts and everything, you could go ahead and play with this to your heart's content. Right here is where you can go ahead and filter down on whether you're in your campaigns, ad groups, or ads. And this is very handy, of course, because over time you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of different campaigns and ad groups, and filters are pretty much critical. Like you may have remembered when I first started setting this up, I named all my campaigns to start with the B dash. So basically a prefix there, so I can filter for all my B dashes, so then I can pull up all the campaigns I'm running for this particular advertising effort, right? So that way I can keep things sorted and organized and all that. So we're only looking at what I set up while doing this course. And you can of course add all sorts of filters. So if we click add filter here, we have a bunch of different options. Campaign status is a good one. Make sure you're looking at the active campaigns. Coming on down here, you could also look for name, of course, campaign name, which is what I'm using up here, and so on. So, play with it to get the information you need, but filters, pretty important. And now before we get into the rest of this stuff over here, I want to point out a couple other things. So there's overview and recommendations. There's some pretty good information in here, so I want to go ahead and point these two sections out for you real quick. So let's go into overview. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the training. Real quick, I have a special offer that I want to present to you where you can get a digital copy of my book as well as an audio copy. Plus, I'm giving away 20 pre-written emails that make your email writing a piece of cake. And finally, I have a 7-figure funnel. It's the first funnel that I built that generated over 7 figures for a small business, and it includes training on how to actually set up the funnel. If you're interested in that, plus several other bonuses, link in the description down below, or there'll be a link in the little box up above here. So if you're interested, check it out. Back to the training. And so right now it starts us at the account overview. So this is basically everything that's happening in our Google Ads account. And so, it's like a big dashboard of all that's going on. But we could go ahead and filter in on things. So if you want to come over here and be like campaign, and we could go ahead and search by name. So that B dash, and I can select all 12 campaigns, hit apply. And now I have an overview of, my B dash campaigns, right? So I get to see what's going on in here, which, is more beneficial to me than, my entire account. I don't particularly care about my entire account at this point in time. I want to see what my current advertising effort is doing. So you can do that by organizing your filters, and then you can, see what's going on, and you can click into various options if you want to, and, just kind of check things out, play around with it. So it's just kind of cool little snapshot of what's going on in your account. I don't know if there's anything necessarily actionable here, but just a snapshot of, oh, I spent $413. Okay, interesting. My average cost per click is $1.76. Interesting. And you could, do some other filters here if you want to. All right, then come over to recommendations real quick, because sometimes there's some good recommendations here, and then sometimes there's very bad recommendations. So right now we have all my recommendations right here, and it wants me to go ahead and expand my reach with Google Partner. So basically it wants me to click the little button so my ads show up on Google Partner websites, and basically I lose a lot of money because Google Partner tends to be a money pit, and don't recommend turning it on at all. You're paying money to advertise on YouTube. You want to probably stay on YouTube. So right here, it's basically recommending that I spend more money unnecessarily. So be mindful of these recommendations. Don't just take them at their word. They're here to make money, and oftentimes the recommendations are to either spend more money or to increase your reach, adding your site to Google Partners. So, take their recommendations with a grain of salt. They're here to make money, and so the recommendations are typically for you to spend more money. And now let's go back to the campaigns area real quick and go through the rest of this stuff. So we could go ahead and search for particular campaigns if we want to. So if you have a campaign in mind, you could go ahead and search here. Basically, it creates a filter over here that could go ahead and change later. So let's say I want to do like warm traffic and add that. So now my campaign name contains warm traffic, and I see all my warm traffic campaigns and how they're performing. So you could do that search feature, or you could just edit your filter here, just like I'm doing now. So there we go. All right, now the next option is segments here. So let's click in here, and this is a pretty good way to get like an inside view of your account. Like you can basically pick little segments, and it provides a breakdown report of those segments. So we have time, click type, conversions, device, network, top versus other. Not quite sure what that means. Ad destination. But yeah, we can just check them out a little bit. So time, hour of the day. So pretty self-explanatory. So these hours of the day are when we get our views, our clicks, our conversions. So knowing this information could be beneficial because we could know, different hours or times a day basically to like exclude or maybe increase our budget or something to that effect. So you can run reports on time. Let's come back over here to segments. Click type. This used to be more useful in the good old days. It's not as useful anymore because now for like every in-stream ad, I think every single click I've ever seen has been on website. So we know it's website. Now, maybe you might get some card clicks or some end cap clicks, but I don't know. Everything I see is website always. So I don't know if this is a useful segment these days, but in the good old days, like people used to click on different things. Like you'd have some on your call to action overlay, you'd have some on your cards, you might have some on your headline. So I don't know. It's not as relevant anymore, but it's there. Conversions, this can be very helpful. So I don't know if you remember, but when we set up our ad group, we selected what conversion objective we wanted to like go after, like what conversions we were targeting. And for mine, I selected specific conversion events. Like I wanted, transactions or sales funnel blueprint downloads or leads. But if you did not select a particular conversion event, like you just left it like any conversion, I just want conversions. Well, then if you did this segment report, it would tell you what type of conversions occurred and kind of break it down for you. So you had some sales funnel blueprint downloads, and you'd also know that you had some transactions or something like that. So depending how you set up your ad group and how you're optimizing it, this conversion segment option could give you an inside view of what type of conversions you're getting, which of course could be very beneficial. And then let's come back in here, and then we have devices and network and so on, and you can experiment with those. Let's just move on, so I'll turn it off. So the next option we have then are columns, and of course columns are the columns of our table right here. So they're the information we're looking at. So you want to make sure that you have columns that are relevant to help you make good decisions, right? So let's click into it, and we'll just go to modify columns. And now you can see they have a bunch of columns in here. They have hundreds of them, I would say. So you could click around in here and see what's relevant, and depending on the type of campaign you're running and the type of objective you have, you might have different columns. But I'm going to show you my base set, and then you can modify it, add to it, subtract from it, or not use it at all. I don't personally care what you do, but I'll show you what I do, and maybe that'll get you started. Let me go ahead and delete these out of here. So I start from scratch, and then I'll go ahead and build from scratch. So let's go to my list here. So I got campaign type and bid strategy. So I search right here, campaign type, And then I'll go with bid strategy. And then I think add impressions next. Impressions. Maybe it's imper. Let's see. We'll go with imper for now. Then we'll interactions and interaction rate. So interactions, interaction rate. And then come back over here. And we've got average cost, cost clicks, average cost, cost, and then clicks. What, something with clicks. Was it cost to click? I wish I had a better memory. Just plain up, straight up clicks, okay? And then we've got CTR, cost per click, conversions. So while we're here, so cost per click, and we'll go with average CPC, and then, so we had click-through rate, which is CTR, and then average CPC for average cost per click. And then we've got conversions, conversion rate, cost per conversion, conversion stuff. So let's throw that in there. Conversions, so we'll go with conversions and conversion rate, and then cost per conversion. So I'll go with cost per conversion right here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and apply, and I'll check it out, see if it's got like the information that I thought I was gonna have, and that looks about right. So now if I like what I have, I can come back up to columns and click modify columns again, and I can go ahead and save my column set, and I'll just say course example, and save and apply, and boom, now I have like a column set that I could come in here and select if I want to, and it just makes my life easier. And then if you're ever wondering like what the column actually means, because some of it's kind of confusing and they have weird names for it, but if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it is. Like an impression is counted each time your ad is served. Impressions help you understand how often your ad is being seen. And then you can click on learn more to learn more about it. Interactions, on the other hand, an interaction is the main action associated with an ad format. These include clicks for text and product shipping ads, blah, 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 blah. So you can read, but I just wanted to point out that if you have any questions about what you're looking at, hover over it, provide you a little description, and then you can click learn more if you want to learn more. And so that's pretty much it for this video. I just want to do an overview of the dashboard so you can kind of get a feel for where your information is so you can make better decisions. In the last video, we went through the Google Ads dashboard, and I showed you different places to go where you could go ahead and look at your advertising campaign information and data. And in this video, I want to go through Google Analytics and show you where you could look at, basically the same information. I think there's a little bit more details within Google Analytics than Google Ads. But I typically just use Google Ads when I'm making my decisions, as I find there's enough information there to make good decisions. But if you want to mess with Google Analytics too, I'll show you where to go to do that here. So basically we're in Google Analytics and we want to go to acquisition, and we can go to Google Ads. And then there's campaigns here. So if you're running multiple types of campaigns like display, search, video, etc., you might want to go to this campaigns option. Or if you're just doing video campaigns like I'm doing in this course, we can go ahead and select video campaigns, and it gives us, a view of our video campaigns compared to all of our campaigns. And so here I am looking at my video campaigns, and again, I could change the date range here if I want to. I could go ahead and compare it if I want to. So similar concept to Google Ads. I have my chart here that I could go ahead and play around with if I want to. I have a few default views that I could go ahead and play around with. So with the summary view right here, which gives me, the summary of all my advertising efforts, or I could go into like site usage if I want to see users and all that type of information, or e-commerce, or I could go through different engagements or goal sets if I have that stuff set up. So basically several pre-established filters you could go ahead and click on. Then we have this cool chart here, and we could, of course, select different options here and, basically draw the same type of chart we could draw it in Google Ads. And then we could change like the time frames as well as the chart type if we want to. And then if we scroll on down, we get to our table of information, which is where we probably want to go see how things are performing. And we have different views, so we can choose a different primary dimension. By default, it's broken down by campaign and campaign ID, but we could also go into ad content if we want to. So if you have ad content set up, you could go ahead and compare ad content. Also, you can look at the videos, so which video is producing, the best results or getting the clicks and all that type of stuff. So this could be pretty cool to break down which videos are doing the best. But I'm going to come back up to the campaign/campaign ID level and point out the secondary dimension now. So if we want to go another level deeper, like maybe add group, we can go ahead and add group. So we'll go with add group now. And now it's breaking it down from our campaign into our different ad groups. So we could compare different ad groups if we want to. And you could, of course, change your secondary dimension to be whatever you want. And then we have sort type, and we only have default available. We could go ahead and search through our table here. So if we want to search for a particular campaign or ad group or ad, we could go ahead and do that. There's advanced search then, so you can click on that, different charts and all that type of stuff. And then one thing that we can do here in Google Analytics that we can't really do in Google Ads is we can break down all of our conversions. So we could look at e-commerce or all goals or different goals. So if we want to look for all goals, we could click that option and it'll show us the count for all the goals, and we could go ahead and sort by it. So we're like, okay, this campaign and ad group has this many goals completed, or we could go ahead and filter and see how many leads it actually generated. So we could filter by leads. And now I know which campaign is bringing me the most leads and so on. So you can dive into your conversion objectives in a lot more detail using Google Analytics than you can in Google Ads. So that can be beneficial. But besides that, I think most information is the same across each platform. So I kind of recommend just playing around with both. And since we're actually able to make changes in the Google Ads platform, that's usually where I do my analysis, because I can do my analysis right there and then make the changes right there. But if you're more comfortable looking at Google Analytics and extracting that data and then going back over to Google Ads and making your changes, you could do that as well. I just wanted to point out that you can pull a lot of great information out of Google Analytics, and that's it for this video. Alright, this video is kind of like an optimization overview, so let's get into it. So first things first, always remember your objective when you're analyzing your campaigns, ad groups, and ads. Like, what is the point of your campaign that you're looking at? Are you trying to get views? Are you trying to get clicks? Are you trying to get conversions? You just want to make sure that you're optimizing for the right thing. Like, for example, you might see that you're getting a really good cost per click or a really good cost per view. Like, it's the best campaign in your entire account, but your conversions aren't what you want them to be. And if you're optimizing for conversions or you're trying to get conversions, well then it doesn't really matter what your views or your clicks are if your main goal is conversions and you're not reaching your main goal, right? So make sure you're focused on the right thing, because there could be some pretty numbers in there. You could be getting some pretty view counts, pretty click-through counts, but again, if you want conversions and you're not getting those, well, that's what matters. So make sure you're looking at what's important. And then, of course, always keep in the back of your mind the million-dollar question, which is, are you spending less per each action than you want? Advertising is relative. In some markets, $5 per lead is a good deal. In other markets, $5 per lead would make you go bankrupt in no time. So you need to know your business's numbers and what are good numbers for you. Then you need to make sure you're spending the right amount to get that desired result. Now, of course, when you first launch a campaign, more than likely it's not going to be profitable right out of the gate. So that's why we go through this whole optimization process, and hopefully you can get it down to being a profitable campaign. So while you probably won't hit a home run right away, you do need to make sure that you're trending in the right direction, that you're going to get that cost per action to less than or equal to what you want it to be. And another thing you need to be mindful of is allowing time between your changes. Like, it takes time for Google's algorithm to adapt to whatever you change in your ad account. So in the next video, I'm going to show you about the learning phase, so you'll learn a little bit about that. But when your campaign is in the learning phase, the typical rule of thumb is you don't touch it. You let Google's algorithm go through the process, figure out what works, what doesn't work, and so on. Alternatively, if you're doing completely manual optimization, you want to wait at least 3 days before you start making more changes. You need to give the system time to adapt to what you just adjusted. Otherwise, it's never going to know or catch up with what you've done. So you either want to wait for your learning phase to be over, or at least a 3-day window, whichever one's most prevalent for your campaign. And you also want to make sure you're looking at the appropriate date ranges as well. And those date ranges are since the last change that you made. So if you made a change 3 days ago, well then your date range would be 3 days till now, right? Or if you haven't made a change in 3 weeks and you want to go in and see how things are performing, you probably want to only look at like the last week or so to see how the last week has been. Because if you look at too long of a time frame, like you might be looking at several different changes you've made and it'll just be like a blur, and it'll make it hard to tell if the last change is what impacted your results or the change before that impacted the results. So you want to make sure you're looking at the right date range or time frame. Additionally, when comparing your campaigns, ad groups, ads, keywords, devices, etc., you want to make sure that there's a statistical significance between the different versions, so that way you're sure that you're picking the right one. And we'll be using this statistical significant calculator, so you'll see exactly how it works. And if you watch my campaign when I built it out, I believe I used it in there, so you've probably seen it before, but we'll do it in this section as well, so you'll see it again. Now real quick, a little bit about the order of optimization. So this is kind of like the order of things you want to go ahead and optimize when you're optimizing your campaigns. So the first thing to optimize here are your campaigns. So basically, if you have multiple campaigns that are kind of doing the same thing, you can compare those campaigns and keep the best one. So for example, you might have an acquisition campaign that's targeting keywords, and you might have another acquisition campaign that is targeting custom intent audiences. And so they're both targeting like the same type of people. They have the same purpose, which is to convert cold traffic into warm traffic. They're sharing the same videos. They have the same ads, etc. So what you probably want to do is compare which one is providing you the best results and run with that one. And I'll explain this little asterisk that I have here in just a minute, so bear with me. Alright, so the next thing you want to go ahead and check out are your ads. So if you have multiple ads in an ad group, you want to see which one or two are doing the best and shut the other ones off, because there's very little point in running ads that aren't working. Up next we have devices, which may or may not be a significant change to make. So I made it gray because maybe it makes sense to do it or maybe it doesn't make sense depending on your audience and all that type of stuff. But obviously devices could have a huge impact on your performance. So desktop usually costs more than mobile devices. However, desktop usually provides better results. So this kind of brings me back to the very first bullet on my first slide there, where I talked about your campaign objective and making sure that you're optimizing for your actual campaign objective and not what just looks pretty. So the next thing you want to go ahead and optimize are your keywords. Of course, you want to turn off those that aren't producing results and maybe increase the budget on the ones that are producing results. And then we have where ads are showed. So Google Ads will list out all the channels that your ads have shown on, and a lot of them won't be relevant to what you're offering. They might be in a foreign language, they might be targeting kids, they might be like a completely different market than you possibly want to reach. And so you probably want to exclude those various sources of like bad traffic. And I'll explain why this is highlighted in yellow in just a second here. But the next few options are pretty even on how you want to optimize them. We have locations, demographics, and ad schedule. So, they might be important for you or they might not, but usually between optimizing campaigns, ads, keywords, and where your ad showed, you're going to get enough bang for your buck that you don't really have to dive into locations, demographics, or ad schedule. Now, I talked about this on the last slide as well, but it's very important and people tend to forget about it, including me. I tend to want to get things done, but you have to wait for the learning period to expire, or at least 72 hours between these different changes that you're making. So if you go in and you shut off some of your ads, you need to wait for the learning period to end, or you need to wait for 72 hours for the system to kind of like process the changes. So for example, let's say you go in and you turn off some ads. Well, you're gonna have to wait for the learning period to end, or at least 72 hours between that change before you go back in and then you start messing with devices or keywords or so on. So every time you go to like a different category of changes, whether it's ads or devices or keywords, you need to wait for the learning period to end or 72 hours. You do not want to go in here and change your ads and your devices and your keywords all at once, otherwise it's way too much stuff and you'll have no idea what did what. So this brings me to the asterisk here that I have next to campaigns. So with your campaign, so when comparing campaigns, if you shut one off, that's fine. You don't have to wait 72 hours to start messing with the one that you left on. So in the same period of time, you could compare two campaigns together, decide to turn one off, and then with the one you left on, you can go in there and you can mess with the ads. And then with the where ads showed, you can change this pretty much every day if you wanted to. Now you might not be spending enough to generate enough data to make decisions every day, but if you're spending enough, in theory, you could come in here and make changes every day to where ads showed. It's fine to edit this along with any of the other categories. Like if you mess with ads, you can also mess with where ads are showed. Or if you mess with devices, you can also mess with where ads showed. Or you can just mess with where ads showed. That's fine as well. So to kind of close this section out, what you want to do is iterate a few times through this order of optimization. So you mess with your ads, you wait the the learning period or 72 hours. Then you mess with the devices, you wait the learning period or 72 hours. Then you mess with the keywords, you wait the learning period or 72 hours. Then maybe you mess with the keywords again and you wait another learning period or 72 hours. All the while you're adjusting where your ads show to make sure you're not showing them in random bad places. So you go through a process like that, and if you're still not profitable, then you probably have an ad that's not very good. So you probably want to relook your ad, or maybe your offer isn't very good. Maybe what you're trying to offer to people, just they don't want it. So you may need to go back to like business 101 and ensure that what you're promoting to people is something people actually want. Alternatively, you may need to look into your back end. So sure, maybe you're not generating leads or sales on the front end for as low prices as you want, but if you have a great follow-up system and additional products and services people want to buy, aka a value ladder, well then you can spend a little bit more on the front end if you know that you can make additional money on the back end. So in the following videos, we're going to go through this order of optimization together so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, what I'm looking for, what I'm comparing, etc. So you'll know how to make decisions as well. And so that is it for this video. Alright, so this can be a quick little video, but I want to address something before we get into some more detailed optimization stuff. And that is this status here. So if you're in an eligible learning status like these campaigns are right here, you probably don't want to touch them unless there's a couple caveats here, and I'll explain them in a minute. But during this time, Google's going out there and they're figuring out which keywords, which placements, which audiences, all that stuff. They're trying to figure out what converts best. So if you're using some sort of campaign objective like conversions and it's automatically optimizing for you, you want to let it auto optimize for you before you go in there and start messing with things. So if your campaign's in this eligible learning status, I recommend not touching it unless there's a couple scenarios where you might be okay touching it. First things first, if it's not delivering or it's not delivering as quickly as you think it should, like you have a large enough audience and you thought your budget was good, but it's still not delivering correctly, well then you could go in there and you can touch it and tweak it and try and get it to start delivering. And then once it's delivering, the learning mode will probably reset based off of your changes, and then it'll go through the whole process again. So basically at the beginning, when you're trying to get these things live and running and working, that's when you can go ahead and touch them and mess with them. And another time you might touch it when you're in the learning phase is if you're doing kind of a test between two different campaigns. Like I was doing a keyword targeting right here, and I was comparing it to a custom intent audience right here. And it was very obvious that the keyword audience was outperforming the custom intent audience by like 120% or something crazy like that. So even though my custom intent audience was in a learning phase, I still shut it off. I didn't give Google time to go out there and optimize it because the keyword one was already beating it right out of the gate, and I wanted to focus all my attention there. Now that's not to say that Google might not have honed in on this and auto-optimized it better than my keyword one, which that could have certainly happened, but I personally wasn't willing to wait for that to happen, especially when the performance of my keyword campaign was so much better than my custom intent campaign. So that's it. I just wanted to address this learning status real quick and let you know that you probably don't want to touch anything until it's done, unless, of course, your ads aren't delivering or you have another competing campaign that's a clear winner. In this video, we're going to go ahead and start on our optimization stuff here, and in particular, we're going to focus on where ads showed. Now this is a little bit out of order from what I have right here, but like I said previously, we can adjust where these ads showed like whenever we want to. So you could do it daily if you want to, or if you have enough data to support doing it daily. But basically, you'll want to do this, semi-frequently. So that way you make sure your ads are showing in places that actually convert and are relevant to like your audience. And I also want to point out real quick that you'll probably only do this on your cold traffic campaigns, whereas with your retargeting campaigns, yeah, your videos are going to show up in all sorts of weird places, but it's because people already watched something or engaged with you somehow, and then maybe they go and watch something weird that's not relevant. But since they engage with you already, they already know who you are, warmed up to you and all that stuff, so it makes more sense for retargeting for your ads to be in random places. However, with cold traffic, you want your ads to be in places that are like relevant for the audience you're trying to attract. So let's head over to Google Ads and I'll show you how to go about changing this around. So come on over here. And I'm going to go to my cold traffic campaign here. So I have one right here. I'll click into it real quick. And then what I want to go ahead and do is come over to placements on the left-hand side here. And we see an option here for where ads showed. So let's go ahead and click that option real quick. and we see where our ads have showed, all the channels that they've showed on or shown on. And I'll typically either sort by impressions or possibly cost. And the reason I do that is so that way I'm focused on, the top, 10% of channels that are driving the most traffic. I don't need to spend a lot of time, focused on these channels that, I've spent 7 cents on. Like, that's kind of a waste of time in my opinion. Instead, I want to focus on like some of the crazy ones that like don't make any sense at all. So I'd sort by impressions or cost. So let's sort by cost real quick and we can kind of see what's going on. So this first one here, Wesley Virgin, mobile and tablet, that's fine. We see that I have 4 conversions, so cool. Cost per conversion is $4.90. My average cost per conversion right now is $4.33, so it's a little high, but one more conversion out of that and I'd be okay. I've spent about almost 20 bucks here. Conversion rate's 2.65, so pretty high conversion rate compared to my average here. So you know what, that's fine with me. Okay, on to the next one here. So Zulia. And I have 0 conversions, I have some impressions, some views, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn on clicks real quick. So let me come to columns and modify columns, and I'll go ahead and search for clicks, and also I'll go with average cost per click as well, throw those in there and apply it real quick so I can see how many clicks are being driven. Yeah, so Zulia right here, so again 0 conversions, some views, I've spent $7.22, I have 0 clicks. So Zulia seems like a bad place to be, right? So let's go ahead and pop this thing up and see what Zulia is all about, because it'll kind of blow your mind sometimes. So it looks like it's a PB, I'm not sure where that is. My assumption somewhere in South America, but I could be wrong, so forgive my ignorance here. But it looks like it's in Spanish here, so I'm trying to target English people, not Spanish people. I mean, there's plenty of Spanish people that speak English. And I don't know if you can hear this video or not playing, but it's definitely in Spanish, even though it says best tips to start your business. So this is a Spanish channel, and it's not driving any traffic. So what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and exclude from my entire campaign. I don't want to target this channel ever again. And so then we just kind of go down the list here. So the next one, Keg Laser. So I got 0 conversions here, spent $7. I've got a few clicks at least, so that's good. The cost per click's a little higher than my average though, so that's not good. So let's go ahead and check this out. It may or may not be worth our time. So let's see. It looks like the same thing. So I think there's like some sort of like system that people are trying to like hack the system where they produce all these videos and try and just capitalize on ad spend. So I bet if I click into this thing, I bet they're speaking in a foreign language. I'm not sure if you can hear it or not, but they're definitely speaking in Spanish. So again, see, I think, is that the same person? See, they're on to something. They're like black hatting YouTube. So you got to be cautious about where your ads are showing. So I want to block Keg Laser, whatever it is, exclude from campaign. So block them out of here. Moving on down, we got 5 trading. We got 0 conversions. We got 0 clicks. So that's not a good sign really. So let's come on down here. And let's see what this is all about. So it looks like it's in English at least. And let me pop open our video. And she's speaking a foreign language as well. What is up with this? I targeted the English language and everybody's speaking Spanish and everything else. So let's go ahead and exclude this one from my campaign as well. And there we go. So yeah, we just go down the list, excluding all the ones that aren't relevant to us, aren't driving conversions, aren't driving clicks, and where you're spending money. So like here's another 0 conversions, 0 clicks over here. So this one's probably a bad one to have, so I'd probably ultimately exclude it. But you want to go down and go through the top 10% of the channels that you have in here and go ahead and exclude them. And you kind of build up an exclusion list over here. So here's my exclusion list. And what you could go ahead and do is over time, you download it and then you upload it to other campaigns. So that way you're excluding these channels out of other campaigns that you may be running. And you basically just build up a list of exclusions where your ads don't perform well. So anyway, those are placement exclusions, or where ads showed exclusions, as I called it here. And again, you can do this as many times as you want to. And I definitely recommend doing it probably at least once a week just to make sure like you don't have any random stuff popping up. As you can tell, YouTube will put your ads like all over the place on Spanish speaking channels, even though you didn't select it. They put them on random things. So you need to watch it so that way you're not like just blowing through your cash on channels that are never going to convert. In this video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about optimizing our campaigns. And again, you could go ahead and turn on or off a campaign while simultaneously adjusting something else like your ads or devices or keywords. At the same time, you could do both things at the same time if you want to. So anyway, let's go in here, and this is pretty simple. And if you watched my videos where we built out a campaign together, you saw me go ahead and analyze 2 different campaigns and I shut one off. And if you don't recall, we're about to do that same process again. So basically right here I have this campaign, a direct campaign with the in-stream ad focused on keywords that are related to sales funnels. And then down here, now it's already turned off, but I had another direct campaign that was an in-stream ad with sales funnel blueprints for the custom intent audience focused on sales funnel. So basically I was comparing these 2 campaigns together to see which audience type worked best and produced the best results. And so how I did it then was I ran it for enough time. I got some data flowing through here. And now what I want to go ahead and do is enter this data into an A/B test significance calculator. Now I use Neil Patel's, and I'll include a link to it in the course notes. I use it because it's nice and clean, it's simple, and it works. So, and I like Neil Patel as well, but that's beside the point. This calculator works and it's easy to use. So all we're going to do is take our impressions and compare it to our goal, which is our conversions in this case, and see which one produces the best results. So I got my one right here, so 5, 7, 7, 9, and 40. So let's go in here, 5, 7, 7, 9, whoa, and 40. And then I have 2, 4, 8, 8, and 7. 2, 4, 8, 8, and 7. 2, 4, 8, 8, and 7. And so test A converted 147% better than test B. I am 100% certain that the changes in test A will improve your conversion rate. Your A/B test is statistically significant. So right there, it tells us that this keyword focused campaign is 143% better than our custom intent campaign, and that's why I went ahead and I shut off this campaign. So that's pretty much it when it comes to comparing campaigns. You just take your campaigns that are doing the same concept, right? So I'm targeting keywords versus targeting custom intent audience, but same ad, same objective, same everything else, but just like my targeting's a little different, and then I compare which one's doing the best, and I turn off the one that's doing the worst and keep the one that's doing the best, leave it on, and that's really all there is to it. Alright, so the next category we're going to talk about are ads, which works essentially the same exact way as campaigns, except when you make changes to ads, you have to leave your campaign alone for the learning period or 72 hours before you start making additional changes, right? So let's go into our ads account and look at some of our ads. So I'm going to go into my sales funnel book campaign because I have some different ads there. So that's what I want to go ahead and look at. And I'll go into all devices. And so I have 2 different ads, 2 different videos, and now I could go ahead and compare which one is producing the best results. And we notice that I don't have the impressions column up here. So let me go ahead and turn that on real quick. Modify columns. And search for impressions, and apply. And I should have put it over in the front, but anyway. So I have 1, 2, 3, 2, and then what was I going for? Conversions, 1 conversion. So 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2. 1, 3, 2, 3. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 2. There we go. And 1. So I don't have enough data here probably to make a decision, but anyway, 598 and 1 as well. 198 and 1. 198. No. 598. My memory is terrible. Goodness. 1. Alright, so test B converted 107% better than test A. I'm 68% certain that the changes in test B will improve your conversion rate. Unfortunately, your results are not statistically significant. So there's not enough data here to support turning on or off an ad, so I'm going to leave it B. But that's the main concept, right? So again, just like doing campaigns, you look at impressions. compared to what you're going after, in which case I'm going after conversions, and I do the compare, see what's working, and if it's statistically significant, I make changes. Let me go back to a different campaign. Maybe I do have one that has enough data. Let me look at my cold one. I don't think my ads are probably that uniquely different, but anyway, going to mobile and tablets here, and I do have 2 ads here, and let's go ahead and turn on my impressions column, and impressions, and let me put it in the front here. Okay, apply. All right, so they have like almost exactly the same number of impressions, so that's pretty interesting. And then same with conversions, 14 and 12. But again, this is the same video that I have. I just have some different call to action. So I have download or no opt-in, and so that's all I'm comparing. So they should be relatively similar. Now, given that this information I have right here, I know that that they're not going to be significantly different, but I'll go ahead and plug it in just for the sake of example. So 1971 and 14, 1971 and 14, and then I have 1985 and 12, 1985 and 12. And so there we go. Test A converted 18% better than test B, 66% certain, not statistically significant. So anyway, I just wanted to show you the calculator again, and I think you get the point. And now know when to turn off your ads. In this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about optimization based on devices. And I made this gray because it may or may not be too important, really. It just depends kind of on your targeting and things like that. But anyway, we'll go ahead and discuss it real quick. So we'll come in here and let me go to this campaign real quick. So I broke out my devices by ad group. So I have a desktop ad group as well as a mobile and tablets group right here. And so I can compare the 2 device types basically right here on my ad group page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So I got 955 and 14, 955 and 14, and then I have 15, 59 and 26, 15, 59, 26, 15, 59 and 26. All right, so test B converted 14% better than test A. I'm 66% certain, yada, yada, yada. Unfortunately, your results are not statistically significant, so there's no major difference between the devices. And really, most of the time, desktop traffic is a little bit higher quality. So even if you're spending a little bit more cost per conversion, like on the front end, like typically that traffic, like they sat there and they paid attention to your video instead of somebody on mobile device that's probably using the bathroom or whatever, and they're not really paying attention. Whereas on a desktop, they're focused usually. So while you might spend a little bit more on desktop traffic, it's usually better quality. So that's just something that you want to be mindful of. Now let me come back out a campaign and I'll go into one of my retargeting campaigns. So I'll go up to my warm traffic 18 funnels one, and I only have one ad group here called all devices. So I'm targeting all devices here, but we could still do something with this. So if you notice on the the left-hand side, I know my left and right. The left-hand side, we have devices here, and I could click into it, and it shows me my devices that I'm targeting, and I could go ahead and do the compare right here as well, even though I didn't separate them at the ad group level. So now I could just go ahead and do my compares just like normal. So 530 and 7, 500, 530 and 7, and then I also have, let's compare it to mobile phones, so 1698 and 15, 1698 and 15. So test A converted 50% better than test B, 79% certain. However, my tests are not statistically significant, so I'm not going to make any decisions here. But it is kind of interesting that my computers are performing better than my mobile devices. Now let's go ahead and compare computers versus tablets here and see what's doing better. So I have 113 impressions here and 0 conversions. So that's not good. 113 and 0. So basically, computer is 100% better than my tablets. So my test is statistically significant. So, that's interesting, right? So tablets might not be very good for me. Let's go ahead and compare tablets now to mobile phones. So 1698, 1698, 1698, and what was it? 1698 and 15 and 15. And so even that is 100% certain that the changes are better. So you know what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and decrease my tablet by 100% or 1000%. And so now I'm not going to spend any more money on advertising to tablets because, you know, it's proven that they do not perform as well as computers and mobile devices. Even though like my view rate is better and my cost per view is less, it's not generating the results that I want, which are conversions. All right, so now that we edited our devices, let's come back to our table here. And with a device edit, usually that triggers another learning period. I'm going to back out here real quick and check and see if it triggered a learning period. But if it didn't, we're still going to wait 72 hours regardless to give the system time to reacclimate to the changes that we just made. But let me go back out real quick to the campaigns and see if we went into the learning phase again. We're still eligible, so we didn't do a significant enough change to trigger a learning phase, but for our own personal benefits, we're going to wait 72 hours before we touch that campaign again. So what I would do is just take a note down that I don't want to touch that campaign until 3 days have passed, and then I could go ahead and look at some other stuff to go ahead and optimize. And that is pretty much it for devices. In this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about keyword optimization, so let's just get into it. So here I'm in Google Ads, and of course I need to go into a campaign that actually targets keywords. So I'm going to go into this campaign real quick. And I do want to go down to the ad group level because, you know, different keywords perform differently on different devices and whatever. So I do want to do it at the ad group level. So go into an ad group, and then I can come over here on the left-hand side and keywords. And now I can go ahead and do a compare of my keywords. Now, typically how I sort it is either by impression or by cost. So that way I'm looking at the keywords that have like the most traction or the most activity around them because I want to make sure that, you know, I'm spending money smartly. So my first keyword here is email marketing. I have 3 conversions here, $10.49 per conversion. So that seems pretty high. That's my highest one for sure here. 778 impressions, $31. So I'm spending the most amount of money, but is it actually worth it? It's hard to say without actually comparing it to some other keywords. So let's look at my next keyword that I'm spending money on, which is digital marketing here. So then I have 4 conversions, 486 impressions. So let's go over and plug it in real quick. So I have 778 and 3. 486 and 4, and we see that test B converted 114% better than test A, 83% certain, not statistically significant. So even though right now my email marketing keyword is doing, you know, twice as bad in terms of cost per conversion as my next biggest keyword, it's not so bad that it makes sense to really shut it off at this point in time. So I'm gonna let it run. You know, maybe I'll randomly get 3 conversions and, you know, my cost per conversion will, you know, halve overnight. So we'll let it keep going until we have more data here. The next one, we have internet marketing, and I have 2 conversions at $7.95 a conversion, 321 impressions. And what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and compare it to my top performing keyword. So my digital marketing keyword right now is my top performing keyword. So let's go ahead and compare it. So 321 and 2. And we got 321 and 2. So test B converted 33% better, 64% certain, not statistically significant. Okay, so I'm not going to shut that one off either. I will do one more. So landing page maker, $2 per conversion, or 2 conversions, $9.34 a conversion, $168 impressions. So 168 and 2. So let's come over here. 168 and 2, again, converted 45% better, 66%, and so on. So basically, I don't have enough data down here on my keywords at this point in time, at least not in my desktop's ad group. Let me go to my other ad group real quick, and maybe I have enough data here to make some decisions. So here's my top keywords here. So I have digital marketing, which has 0 conversions on mobile and tablets. So that's kind of interesting. I think I had 5 on desktops with the same keyword. So that's interesting. And then internet marketing here has 10 conversions. So who knows why that is, but you know, let's look at let's do a comparison. So I have 18, 12, and 0. 18, 12, and 0. And then I have 1206 and 10. 1206 and 10. And so right here, test B converted better than test A. I'm 100% certain that the change is statistically significant. I can't talk. You got the idea though. So basically for my mobile and tablets ad group, my internet marketing keyword is way better than my digital marketing keyword. So in this particular case, I'm gonna go ahead and shut off my digital marketing keyword for whatever reason, like it didn't catch correctly or whatever, and it's just not working. So I'm gonna turn it off. And so basically I just continue going down my list, at least the first few entries here that are spending the most money, and make sure that they are producing conversions and it makes sense to keep them turned on. And now I do want to point out that this particular campaign that we're looking at here is set up to auto-optimize for conversions. Like that was part of my campaign settings, is I set it to optimize for conversions. But if you're going full manual mode, if we come back out here, so my campaign right here, my discovery campaign, this one's like full manual mode. And if I click into it and I look at my keywords, you see that we have the opportunity to change our cost per view. So while this particular campaign doesn't have enough data to make any like educated decisions because I don't have any conversions here, but if I did have conversions, typically what you'll want to do is increase the cost per view for the keywords that are producing the results. So if you had, a bunch of conversions on one keyword, you might be like, you know what, I'd actually spend 20 cents on the keyword that is producing results. And then if you have a keyword that's not producing results, you might lower it to maybe 10 cents instead of 15 cents. So when you're in full manual mode, you can adjust your maximum cost per view, and that's where you get a lot of control and power from, because you can tell Google exactly which keywords to go ahead and push based off of how you're analyzing your results. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. If you are set up as like a manual campaign, you can go ahead and change your maximum CPV, which can be incredibly powerful. And that is pretty much it for keyword optimization. All right, in this video, we're gonna go ahead and talk about locations, demographics, and ad schedule, because they all function like the same way, and they actually function the same way as I showed you with the devices here. So if you saw that video, it's like the same concept, it's just in a different option here. So let's go over here and check it out. So I can come into a campaign, so I'll just go into this campaign because I have the most traffic here, and it's more fun to look at something with more data. So we have locations, so if we pop up in locations, we can see our various locations that we have, and we can of course get more detail by clicking into different reports here. So we can go to like geographic report, and we can click into location, and then we can go ahead and select a different view. So I'll just go by state real quick. And right here, it breaks down, all the different states and what's producing the results. I could go ahead then and, select different states, and I could go ahead and exclude states that aren't producing the correct results, and so on. So just like normal, you'd go through and you'd compare. You'd probably use your statistical significance calculator to make sure the states you're turning off, it makes sense to turn off because you have enough data saying that that state sucks, or whatever it might be. But I think you got that concept now. So let's go over to demographics real quick. So we can go into demographics now, and of course there's age, gender, parental status, and so on. And again, we have a breakdown of the different conversions and how much you're spending and yada yada. And you can go ahead and select them, and you can go ahead and exclude from group if you want to, and so on. Same thing with gender, same thing with parental status, same thing with household income, and so on. So same concept as before. Use the statistical significance calculator where it makes sense, and so on. And then finally, our next option is ad schedule. So if we come on down here to ad schedule, and we can go ahead and break it down by day and hour. So here's our days and our hours, and we can see what's producing results, what's not producing results. And then we could go ahead and instead of setting up exclusions, basically you just set up a schedule instead. So edit ad schedule, and here you could go ahead and turn on different days or weeks or hours and all that type of stuff. So ad schedule works a little differently in that you don't exclude things, but instead you set up a schedule and you can manipulate your times based on that. But again, that comes down to like day parting and all sorts of craziness. And unless you're running like crazy amounts of traffic and it's really unique, you're probably not going to do too much with ad schedule, at least not in my experience. And that's why it's all the way down here at the very bottom in terms of like significance. But you know, different businesses are different. If you're in a business that's like about nightlife and stuff like that, maybe ad schedule is a big deal and you know, it should come up here. But you know your business better than anybody else. So if ad schedule makes sense to play with, go ahead and play with it. Alternatively, if it's not important, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. So anyway, I know that this was a quick video, but we've been through so many other options here that hopefully it all makes sense and you just kind of needed to know where to go and what to click on in order to get to locations, demographics, and ad schedule. In this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about scaling your advertising efforts. So let's just get straight into it. Of course, the first thing you can go ahead and do is adjust your campaign budget. So increase your campaign budget means you spend more money, reach more people, generate more results, hopefully, right? And I do recommend that you increase your budget incrementally. So don't go out there and go from $10 a day to $100 a day or something like that, because you never know what might happen. Like you might start getting lower quality traffic or something like that, and you don't want to blow through your money and your budget super quick. So I recommend, you know, increasing it maybe 50% a day or so and just kind of get a gauge of the results you're generating and make sure that you're still profitable. And you don't have to wait like 3 days or 5 days like you do with Facebook ads. You can adjust it every day if you want to. The Google algorithm's not as finicky as the Facebook algorithm, so you can increase your budget daily if you want to. But again, I still recommend doing it incrementally to make sure that your stuff is still profitable. The next thing you can go ahead and do, of course, is to adjust your keyword bidding. So you can go ahead and increase your bids on your keywords if they're profitable, right? So you just spend a little bit more money on the keywords that are producing results, and therefore you'll show up higher in the auction and your ads will show more often, all that type of stuff. Makes sense. And then of course you want to go ahead and decrease your non-profitable keywords, or maybe even turn them off. So that way you're not spending any money on keywords that are not producing the results that you need. You can also scale by adding more keywords, so maybe get more broad keywords into the mix and see how those convert. So that's another way to expand or scale up your advertising efforts. The next way, of course, is to target different audiences. So a great way to scale up is to use a similar audience if you have that available to you. Alternatively, you could go ahead and use custom intent or custom affinity audiences. Now, I've talked about this a bunch of times throughout the course, but custom affinity audiences are usually for like big businesses, and you probably won't need to go into custom affinity. And similar audiences and custom intent audiences are probably enough for scaling for a small business, but if you want to tinker with affinity audiences, by all means, go for it. Then, of course, if it's applicable, you could go ahead and scale to other locations, so other countries or regions or whatever, right? So all these make sense. It's pretty self-explanatory when it comes to scaling. The main thing is I recommend doing most of these things incrementally and just making sure that you stay profitable the whole time. And I want to cover one other topic about scaling that comes up quite frequently, and that is that scaling is not as straightforward as you would like it to be. So for example, if you're putting $10 in and you're getting $20 back out every day like clockwork, and you expect to go ahead and put in $100 and get $200 back out, well, unfortunately, it's probably not going to work that cleanly. So 99% of the time, as you scale, as you increase your budget, your return on ad spend or your return on investment will decrease. So I'm going to say that again. 99% of the time, your return on ad spend or your return on investment will decrease. Now, there is that 1% of the time where you put more money in and the results stay the same, or the results even get better. And if you have that happen, then that is freaking awesome. But 99% of the time, that is not going to happen. So for a practical example and how to think about actually scaling your advertising efforts, let's say that you have a $50 product and it nets $25. So you have, a $25 cost of goods sold. So let's say you're spending $100 in ads and you're getting a 3x return on ad spend. So that's $300 return on ad spend. And then of course you got to go ahead and subtract out your cost of goods sold. So that's 6 products times 25, so $150. So you're netting $150 and you have a 1.5x ROI. So that's pretty good, right? But let's say you go ahead and increase your advertising budget to $1,000, but your return on ad spend, it drops to 2x. Darn it. So that's not cool. It went down a whole lot, right? And so your return on ad spend is $2,000. And then of course you got to go ahead and subtract out your cost of goods sold. So that's minus $1,000. And so your net is $1,000. And so that's only a 1x return on investment. So obviously your return on ad spend, it decreased. Your return on investment also decreased. And a lot of people start to freak out and panic and they're like, oh my gosh, my scaling's not working. My return on ad spend and my ROI is going down. The sky's falling, blah, blah, blah. But obviously $1,000 is greater than $150, even though return on ad spend and ROI isn't as good. So again, return on ad spend and ROI is not as good. However, $1,000 is greater than $150 no matter which way you look at it, even though ROAS and ROI are down. So when it comes to scaling, if your bottom line is bigger, you are doing better. If your bottom line is bigger, then you're doing better. Don't get so lost in the weeds about ROAS and ROI when it comes to scaling. As long as your bottom line is getting bigger, then your scaling efforts are working. And I put this slide in here because a lot of people miss out on this concept. So hopefully this slide helps you out when it comes to scaling your advertising efforts. And always remember that when you're scaling, as long as your bottom line is going up, increasing, then your scaling efforts are working. Now, yes, you can likely do better scaling and so on, but it's probably not going to be the same ROAS and ROI as when you're spending less money. However, you're making more money. And at the end of the day, that's likely the most important thing. Alrighty, so I hope you enjoyed the training. Now I have a quick special offer for you. So if you want a digital copy as well as an audio copy of my book here, as well as 20 pre-written emails to make your email copywriting a piece of cake. And I also have a 7-figure funnel. It's the first funnel that I built that generated over 7 figures of revenue for a small business. And the funnel includes a course on how to set it up and also how to actually sell that funnel to small businesses. So if you're interested in starting a digital marketing agency, that course and that funnel are an ideal option for you. And there's a bunch of other benefits and stuff, bonuses and stuff. Anyway, link in the description down below, or there's going to be a little button probably up here in the video if you're interested in checking it out. Yeah, just check it out if you're interested. And other than that, I hope you have a great rest of the day.